When the air cools down, the smoke begins to dance, weightless and calm. In this video, I'll show how I create a stylized smoke texture from scratch, shaping it step by step inside Substance Designer, from raw noise to the final form. Then we'll plug it into our stylized fire effect in Unity and see how the smoke finally comes to life. Hope you'll enjoy it, and let's get started! Let's start from creating a new substance graph to keep things organized in the previous substance project. And then let's start from creating a noise. For this we can take a cell node, set a scale to lower value, invert it with invert grayscale node. I add some outer levels and levels nodes just in the case I need to edit my levels. And then what I do is I'm taking a multidirectional warp node and warping it with Gaussian noise, and this Gaussian noise also runs through non-uniform blur grayscale just to make it softer. And then I try different modes in multidirectional warp to see how it works, and then I use another layer of multidirectional warp, but this time with the previous blurred version. Also you can try average, max, min and chain mode to see which one will work the best, but for me it's minimum, it's worked the best in this case. And then I add another warp, more warps to the god of warp, but this time I use cells 4 noise node blurred to warp my noise a little bit in the different direction. And after that I want to multiply it with Perlin noise with low scale to add some black spots. Now when I have these wispy shapes, I start creating the smoke shape itself, and I like to make it 2 by 2 from the beginning, so we can make only one texture and not play with 4 different setups. So I take it all at once. And I'm using just a paraboloid shape with some multidirectional warp again, trying different modes and different directions, scaling a bit the main shape so they will cover the texture completely. And after that also I add some slope blur to make it more like a smoke. And then I multiply it with Gaussian noise also to add some black spots so it's not so uniform. And after that we are going to multiply these basic shapes with our noise. Here I decided that I don't want to use an outer levels, but I want to use my levels instead to better control the contrast. After that I add more levels for better control, blur them and add back to the main texture to add some glow to the brighter part. After that I'm using another layer of warp with Perlin noise with the low scale, and after that adding some levels to it to better control the contrast one more time. And what I'm doing next is I'm adding back the texture with my main smoke shapes, but this time with max mode, so there is some grayscale body for the smoke and it's not only black and white. Now when I have this texture that already looks like smoke, I want to multiply it with Perlin noise with low scale to add some black spots to it once again so it looks like actual noise. And I want this Perlin noise to be softer, so I use non-uniform blur grayscale with some levels to emphasize the dark parts of it so that the holes will be bigger. After that I added some outer levels just in case to keep my contrast normalized. And what I'm going to use next is multidirectional warp grayscale with blurred version of the original texture, and I want to use a min mode with 4 directions and with bigger intensity to make the wisps smaller. After that I'm using non-uniform directional warp with two different noises, as for the warping noise and for the directional noise, to make the smoke even more wispy, playing with intensity, playing with angles, playing with trail lengths to see how it looks, and this is all about playing. After that, I'm adding another layer of multiplying with Gaussian noise to add some black spots, to add another layer, and after that I want to add some highlights, so I take histogram scan to take the most brightest part. I then blur them and warping them so they are not like on the main texture, and after the warping I will blend them back to the main texture to add some highlights to the very top layer of the smoke texture. With add and with controlling the opacity of the background texture, we can add it, and after that plug in some levels so I can control the contrast one more time. So this is basically it. This is the whole setup for the Stylized Smoke 2x2 texture. So I can use it as flipbook in Unity, and every texture will be different, not the one that is repeating time after time. And now I can control all of my settings for the noises and for the warps to make it slightly different. So I can get as many different textures as I want. The main idea that is lying under this texture is to make it from different layers and to make it wispy, using different warps to add some highlights and to add some randomness to it, so it looks like real wispy noise that is going to rise from the different spots. And I like Substance Designer because it's fully procedural and I can go again and again to this graph to get slightly different results. This is the main power of this tool. Yeah, and I can use different nodes to see how they will influence the result. And this is how it looks in Unity with our original fire system. I isolated to see just the smoke texture we created, and actually I don't really like it because for me it lacks some density. So I'm going back to Substance Designer to make some tweaks to it and to re-export the texture and to see how can I change it to make it look even better. This is a very iterative and meditative process that could take some time, tweaking all the parameters, because we have a bunch of parameters we want to tweak and the look we want to achieve. So the main idea was to make the wisps look softer, but to add some grayscale under the wisps, so the whole noise won't be like it's only wisps, but it has some volume, some shape under that, and it could take some time to make all of these tweaks and to be satisfied with the final look. Probably some nodes will be changed, probably some levels will be changed, probably some layers will be changed or even denied, or something will be blurred. It's all up to you. The main idea is that this is always something we can change and play with it and have lots of fun tweaking all of this until it looks correct. Next step, after the texture is ready and I'm plus minus satisfied with the result I have, I go into the particle system to test it, how it looks in the whole setup and to set up the particle system and the material to use it. I can control power, opacity multiplier, intensity multiplier, and the background color. And there is a little hint that I usually use. Actually, the smoke is gray or white, but for this kind of stylized effect, I like to use slightly subtle background color, for example, red or blue. It will be blue. In the end, it will be blue, to add some extra layer of color for it, because I used red because the fire is red and this was like a subtle ambient light in my head. But then I decided to use a complementary color like blue, because blue is complementary to orange, to make it feel more satisfied to the human's eye. Wait for it, there will be a blue background color. And also I played with speed, size, and all other particle system stuff. Here I played with background color and I stopped with blue. And for me it looks okay now. And that's it. This is the smoke texture we've made, and here is how it looks in Unity. If you want me to show more about how it works inside the effect, write in the comments. Tell me what you think. I'm always curious whether it's good or maybe not so good. Honestly, I do this mostly for myself, just to create and share what I loved, but if it inspires you too, that's amazing. Hope you will have a great evening. Stay safe and bye. See you next time.